Hello, everyone. Before we get started with FECast episode 51 off topic, just want to give a quick shout out to all our patrons at patreon.com. These folks help keep FECast running, so a huge thank you to Preweeben, Cotillion, Work Done Son, Chamomilk, Chrissy, D-Dub, and Yeastout for their continued support of FECast, and also a big thank you to SRFS, our editor, who puts in a lot of work getting this out to everyone. All right, enjoy us talking about Not Eternal in FECast episode 51. Off topic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to FECast episode 51 Off Topic. It's currently the week between the two weekends of Eternal Worlds. I unfortunately have been eliminated, but my co-host Stormblessed is still in it in the top 16 and will be battling it out this weekend. You ready for it, Stormblessed?
I think so. Maybe I'll do a little bit more testing this week, but all in all, I think I'm about as prepared as I can be.
I'll be rooting you on. Today we're not going to talk about Eternal because we've played a ridiculous amount of Eternal in the past few weeks. And I certainly, after being eliminated, don't want to be thinking about card games in any respect right now at all. So we're just going to be talking about some off-topic stuff, some of the other games that we play, and some other things about your hosts of this podcast that you may not know. So it's going to be very different. In any case, if you are waiting for our discussion about Worlds, I'm sure we'll get to that next week. Hopefully we'll have Collector and or the Boxer or anyone else or whoever wins. Could be one of you three, but we'll have an episode all about that next week. But for today, we're just going to talk about anything else. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good to me. It's gonna be a little bit tangential, the podcast. We might go from tangent to tangent, but hopefully it's enjoyable because just like you guys, we enjoy fun fandom things. It will be mostly a games discussion, and if you like games, if you just like talking about games, this could be a fun podcast for you guys for this one episode.
All right, so let's get into it. What games are you playing right now, Stormblessed?
Well, aside from weeks of like Eternal, but so there's basically one game that I've been playing lately, and that is Hades, the latest game by Supergiant, and it is probably in like my top 3 games of all time already. It is just a masterpiece, which I don't say that lightly about video games because I don't think many video games would deserve such a title. Even some of my favorite games, which I'll discuss later, I don't think deserve that title. But Hades is just like perfection in every element of the game. It's unbelievably good.
Yeah, so for those of you who haven't heard of it yet, it is an action roguelike.
Action RPG roguelike.
Yeah, and it's really well done. The execution on it is very good. It's not really my cup of tea. I'm not really big into action games for the most part, but I've been playing it some and really been enjoying it. So how many hours do you have in it so far?
Um, I don't know, somewhere between like maybe around 50 at the top end. Although it could be more, right? I think I've done like 57 runs of the game, and if a run is about an hour long, counting the fact that you have to go back to the house every time, somewhere around 50 hours, I think makes sense to me. The game,
Okay.
the game. For those of you who don't know, Hades it's based on Greek mythology. It's taking a relatively obscure character in Greek mythology, a person by the name of Zagreus, who was an actual real mythological figure, who is the son of Hades. And it's kind of like, well, why is he so unknown? Like, what's the reason that no one knows the story of Zagreus? And it's like, well, that's because they kept him hidden, and his goal is to escape Hades. And so your goal in the game is to get out of Hades again and again. And the core gameplay loop is, if you've played like a Diablo, Diablo's not the best example, but like, let's like example of action RPG. It's not really my cup of tea, action RPGs. I know games like Cat Quest or something, like very action RPG. This just iterates on it and just does like mechanically, it's like the perfect action RPG. It's got so much different weapons and combinations, and the storytelling is just one of the best I've seen in a video game, especially integrating story into like mechanical gameplay. Like if you look at a game, like I'll mention it later again, but like Final Fantasy Tactics is another one of my favorite games. But like it doesn't have story integrated in the gameplay. It's like you beat a level, you get a cutscene. You beat a level, you get some dialogue. You beat a level, you get some dialogue, and you gotta go to the next stage. Like this actually like incorporates it so much better, and it's 100% voice acted as well, with over I think like 10,000 lines of dialogue. Like it's just really good.
It's like you're reading off an advertisement for the game at this point.
I would sell this game. I would be a massive shill.
One of the really cool things is that you get stronger between each run, so like it feels good, right? It feels good to get a
Yes.
permanent buff
Yeah.
between these things. So yeah, I've also been really enjoying it, but it's not really my cup of tea. Have you been playing anything else?
Not really. I've been a little bit busier lately in real life since graduate school started, but also like I tend to focus on one game at a time, and I'm also pretty casual about games, honestly. Even though I say this being in world competitor in a card game, making at least $1,000 at this point with a card game. But I'm pretty casual overall.
So I've been playing a lot of different games. Unlike you, I suppose, I usually don't just play one game at a time. So I checked out Monster Train, which, if you don't know, Slay the Spire is like amazing for anybody that plays card games. It's a roguelike card game, and it's just so well done. It's really humorous. It's really like it cranks up the difficulty and makes you make really interesting decisions every single time you play it through. So Monster Train has kind of been heralded as like the next big Slay the Spire, but while it has been fun for the first few times I've played through it, it really doesn't have the same satisfaction because the choices, I feel like they don't mean as much. They're not as interesting choices. It's like not as apparent what you should do. Like in Monster Train, oh gosh, pardon the pun, but Monster Train feels like your decisions are on rails, and basically it's very easy to determine what you're supposed to be doing in it. You have to build like a combo deck that goes crazy for the most part, or else you're not going to win. And that's the decisions just aren't quite as interesting. So it's fun, but don't get your hopes up that it's going to be better than Slay the Spire or Hades, because I don't think it is.
I've played a lot of Monster Train actually. I've been to the final boss with each faction pairing. It took me I think like 20 covenants or whatever, which is basically the ascension system in Monster Train. And basically, if you like Legacy or Vintage Storm combo decks, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, if you like I don't know, if you like Glimpse the Possibility Storm in Eternal, this could be right up your alley. But basically, you can't just you can't mid range Monster Train. You can't aggro Monster Train. You really have to go for just absurd combos or just like the giantest unit, making like a 999 cassava basically. It's that sort of game. It is fun. I think in the future it can definitely have potential, but right now I do kind of agree that Slay Spire is probably better overall, but they are very different in many ways. So
Yeah, I guess if you do like going crazy and doing the combo thing, then it might be for you. But I don't know. I just found it less interesting. Another game that I've been playing, I've been replaying Fire Emblem 7. That's the first one for the GBA, with Hector and Ellawood recently. I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. If people don't know that, I've actually played every single English release of Fire Emblem, and I played Fire Emblem 6, which was only released in Japanese, and I kind of refuse to play other translations. So I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan, always have been. And Fire Emblem 7, I've never beaten Hector hard mode, so I wanted to take a look at that and play through it. It's I think this is a classic. I think the storytelling in the old Fire Emblems is so good, and the gameplay is really interesting also. It's a tactics game for those of you who haven't played it. You've got a bunch of units and you move them around to give them orders. You take your turn, the opponent takes their turn. And the thing about Fire Emblem is it's very unforgiving. If a unit dies, they are never revived. They're gone forever, along with all the items that they were carrying. So have you ever played a Fire Emblem?
I have not, although tactics games I'll be discussing a little bit later are like is one of my favorite genres of games ever. It definitely is up there as far as like that and maybe like card game roguelikes as far as like types of games I've played the most of. So it's kind of funny that I've never actually played Fire Emblem considering that I love tactics games so much.
Yeah, it's really good. Although I guess like the more recent games you have to really enjoy like the anime aesthetic or something to be really into them. Otherwise, it might be a little cringy. I don't know. The older Fire Emblem games don't have that problem. I don't know if you've heard about all these complaints about Fire Emblem, like how it's a eugenic simulator, right?
Is it Eugenics Simulator? What? I know there's like weird romance options, right?
Well, yeah, in Three Houses, you're a professor at a school, and you end up dating the students, like
Ooh, that's
afterward, after
okay,
they
okay, okay,
graduate.
okay.
But
I was
I
like,
mean, it's still pretty questionable.
yeah, but it's
So
at
like
least.
that aspect has come later. Well, whatever. I'll talk about more later, I suppose. Okay, so on to games that I'm playing. I've been playing Octopath Traveler, and it's kind of, I'm not like quite sure why I'm making myself do this, but I'm trying to beat the final boss, and it's super hard. I'm like 70 hours in, and it's been good for like 6 of those hours. Aside from that, it's just been like medium.
So then, why are you playing it?
I don't know. I don't know. I really want to beat the final boss, and I don't
What
know.
is Octopath Traveler? Are you playing as
It's
an
a
octopus in it?
no. It's like Final Fantasy 1. It's turn
Okay.
based. You've got 4 characters, and
Yes.
they each have a different class, and you just go around doing quests and
Got it.
stuff.
Final Fantasy One. I have played Final Fantasy One.
Yeah. But like so the aesthetics of it are phenomenal. You back when I streamed a lot, you would hear the soundtrack on my stream a ton, and it's so good. Maybe the best soundtrack ever. It's definitely up there. But the story, like, in order to have a good RPG, you have to have a story that keeps you going, right? You have to be like, oh man, I can't wait
Yeah.
to see what happens next. And that is absolutely not the case in Octopath. There's so much
Oof.
story to it, and it's so garbage, which is
Oof.
really unfortunate. Um,
Oof.
but like I think the battle system is cool. The aesthetics are really interesting. Finally, at the end of the game, so there are 8 different characters in Octopath Traveler, and they have nothing to do with one another, except at the very end, maybe they have a little bit to do with each other.
Oof.
So it's got problems, but I'm so close. Maybe I just am holding on to the sunk cost fallacy. And of course, the last game that I'm playing right now is Legends of Runeterra, which is the card game. It's the League of Legends card game. I actually really love it. It's really interesting. It's not very intuitive. I think that it has a pretty steep learning curve, and I suspected that that would drive a lot of people away from it, but it seems to still be going strong. And for someone that likes competitive card games, it's fantastic. Have you tried Runeterra?
I've watched people play. I've participated in voice chats doing like the like the arena system, the like draft system. Um, and from what I've seen, I like that it's kind of like a midpoint between like Hearthstone and Eternal or whatever, where you sort of have the same sort of like you play units, you get power every turn, right? You get guaranteed power every turn. You play units, and then like they slam into each other, sort of like a Hearthstone. But also you get to play cards on your opponent's turn, which seems really nice. So you get to have the complexity of that. And I think, I mean, if you can't play cards your opponent's turn, that just is sad. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Hearthstone is like incredibly boring. What the heck do you do on your opponent's long turns? But in Runeterra, I would say it's a lot closer to Magic. It just has the Hearthstone resource system.
okay,
It's a lot closer to Magic or Eternal because like when you attack or when you're getting attacked, you do get to choose blockers.
sure.
So it's blockers choose instead of attackers choose, and I think that leads to really interesting gameplay. All right, so that's what we're playing right now. So let's talk about games you'd recommend to folks that, for games that might not be universal experiences. I mean, most of us that have played Eternal have probably played Magic or
Yeah.
Hearthstone, and almost everyone at this point has played Pokemon or whatever, right? But let's talk about some games that we would recommend to people that they might not have heard of, but definitely deserve a little more recognition.
So the first on my list, as I'm going to mention, Baba Is You. I know Sunny's not a big fan of it, but I think Baba Is You is probably one of my favorite puzzle games that I've ever played. It has a very unique mechanic, and it makes you feel very clever to solve the puzzles. And it's got just a lot of different options, and there's hundreds of puzzles, and it's super unique as a puzzle game goes. And I really like it. So
Yeah, I would back you up on all those things you said. My girlfriend's been playing this, so I have a little bit of exposure. I wouldn't say I don't like it so much as I'm not captured by it, you know? Like, I don't have
sure.
anything against it. It's just not something that I'm spending my free time doing.
If you like puzzle games, try out Baba Is You. You won't be disappointed.
All right, my first recommendation is Terraria. I know that Stardew Valley and Minecraft get a lot of love, but holy cow, Terraria is the king, as far as I'm concerned. Like, as far as cooperative sandbox games go, it's just phenomenal. Like, there's an adventure to it, but there's also the capabilities of having endless possibilities for what you want to build. Yeah, it's only 2D, but I think it works. I don't know how people play Minecraft. It just looks so bad to me. like it's so hard to get a good view of what you're building because of where the perspective is, because it's first person. Anyway, in Terraria, it's zoomed out. It's 2D side scrolling, but like, man, it's just so good. You start out in this little tiny pocket of your world, and you eventually explore the entire world. And there's a lot to explore. Like there are caves and NPCs and bosses and so many different biomes. And as you're like exploring this world and you're modifying it by, the things that you build and whatnot. And then once you defeat one of the bosses, you trigger hard mode, where basically going outside of your little bubble that you start out at the beginning means that you're going to die. So like basically you explore a world, you build it up, and then you trigger hard mode, and then you have to go through the entire process of exploring it again. I just think it's so good. Have you ever played Terraria?
I have not. From what I understand about Terraria, like Minecraft is better for like building things, especially if you like wanted to use redstone or whatever, that complicated mess. But Terraria is way better for the adventure side of things because it has a deeper item system, a deeper combat system, and more enemies and different enemies, and it has as you said, more biomes for different types of opponents to fight. So if you're more into like the adventure side of things, Terraria is probably going to be way better for you than Minecraft is.
Yeah, and don't get me started on Stardew Valley. I think that game is extremely overrated. It's a fun
Oof.
time, but it's not a fun time like Terraria. If you're looking to play a multiplayer game with like 5 people and have it span across like several play sessions, I cannot recommend Terraria strongly enough.
So for my next pick, I'm going to mention a game called Faster Than Light, which I presume a lot of you probably heard about, but for those of you that haven't, it's kind of real time, but you can pause it. It's a roguelike. It's a spaceship roguelike. I don't know if similar is the right word, but basically you control a spaceship and your goal is to defeat the rebel flagship and save the Federation. It's kind of weird. It feels a little backwards that you're not the rebels defeating the Federation, but you know what? They do them. They're going to make their game with how they want to make it. It's very clever. You get to upgrade your ship in a lot of ways. It's got a lot of upgraded paths, and not one like type of weapon or combat system is necessarily correct. And you don't even have to fight if you don't want to, although you eventually do to be the final boss. But it's a lot of fun if you like roguelikes, if you like spaceships, if you like that sort of thing. It's a good time.
You had Into the Breach written next to this and you deleted
Yeah.
it. Why did you delete it? Into the Breach is so good.
Okay, well, I deleted it specifically because, well, since we were supposed to like flipping back and forth, I didn't want to mention it because it's also a very different game. They're just made by the same company. So, Into the Breach is another game made by the same company. It's a turn-based tactics game, so obviously it's going to be up me and Sunny's alley. The big difference between it and regular tactics games is that it's more of a positional tactics game where your goal is to not hit enemies directly, but move them over and make them hit each other and make the enemies hit themselves because you get to preemptively see what every enemy is going to do in advance. So there's no RNG involved once your turn comes around. Right, next turn there will be a little bit RNG with what the enemies will do, but once your turn hits, you know exactly what's going to happen for this turn cycle. So you mess up, it's on you. And it's also a great game, also a roguelike, also fun upgrade paths for your mechs and your weapons. Basically, you are mechas and you are fighting an alien invasion.
Yeah, I couldn't really get into FTL that much, but Into the Breach is so good. I love it. It definitely is not like it's not something that's very relaxing, I think, because you have to think so much in order to make sure that you have everything planned out uh, for when you pass your turn, right?
Yeah.
And the order of things matters a ton, but it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it for I guess if you find yourself liking the types of games that I like, I would definitely recommend Into the Breach. If you like tactics games, it's really clever.
Yeah, it's very unique in the tactics game.
Yes, yes, yes. My next recommendation is Danganronpa. I don't know if have you heard of this, Stormblessed?
Uh, the name is familiar, but I don't think I know exactly what it is. Uh,
Okay. You have to really enjoy the anime aesthetic to like Danganronpa.
I'm
But
sensing a theme here, by the way, from Sunny.
are you really like Terraria definitely doesn't follow this,
No,
right?
no, 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 no. I just mean because this is the second time you've said you have to enjoy the anime aesthetic to like it.
Oh, that's just something I recognize about some of my tastes because, well, whatever. Anyway, so it is a murder mystery game. Okay, so you're a high school student and you're trapped in a school. There are 16 people, well, depending on the game, 15 or 16 people in your class, and there's a murderous homicidal teddy bear that is saying, okay, you guys, the only way to escape is to kill someone and get away with it. So the core gameplay is during these class trials where people will be saying things and you need to spot you have to spot the contradictions and point them out, and it's a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever played uh Phoenix Wright, but like it's Phoenix Wright on a totally another level. The writing is really interesting and the murders are really cool. It's a really well done game, but it's also very anime, and it's very violent, and also there are a lot of like mature themes going on in it. But I think it's really well done. At least the core games are.
And it's set in the backdrop of murderous teddy bears.
Yes, murderous teddy bears.
I was like, I just wanted to clarify. You
That's
said the words murderous teddy bears.
yes, homicidal teddy bear. That's the game's mascot, Monokuma. It's a half black and half white teddy bear. Where half of it looks normal and the other one looks like bloodthirsty. And it's very popular. It's just, some of the kids in my class who are in 6th grade are have come to school with Monokuma hoodies, and I'm like, isn't that material like directed at people that are a bit older than you? But I guess kids in the internet these days, they are exposed to a lot more than I was when I was a kid.
Depends on the kid. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna recommend kind of a pair game since they're pretty similar in some regards. More tactics games. Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions is just, I think it's really good. If you like really deep turn-based isometric grid tactics gameplay, this is just gonna be up your alley. There's some elements that are very not modernized. Like there's some ways you can sort of lock yourself out of the game in some respects, because there's some story elements that trap you behind certain towns, and then there's like a boss that like inflicts like sleep on you, and there's no towns at that point where you get the amulets to like protect yourself from sleep. So if you don't stock up ahead of time, it can really hurt you. But the game is really, really good. I think this, somebody said that the story has to be there for the game, and I think the story is there in this role playing game. I think the story in Final Fantasy Tactics is really good. It's a little dated, as I said, but also still holds up in a lot of ways. So that's a game I'd recommend. Another game, similar, a little bit more obscure, I believe, newer game, very newer, is called Fel's Seal Arbiter's Mark. Very similar, a little bit modernized, kind of like smooths out a lot of the rough edges, although there are some things I prefer about War of the Lions, specifically right now. I haven't finished Fel's Seal currently because I got distracted by life and then Hades. But I think the story is a little bit better in War of the Lions currently, at least as far as I've gotten in this other game. But yeah, both games very good renditions of the tactics gameplay.
So I've played Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, and it was phenomenal. I've played so many hours of it, and I've heard a lot of people say great things about Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm surprised that Square Enix hasn't made more of these games. Like, the last one they made was FFTA 2, which was like, I don't know. I was probably in high school, maybe, so 2008.
I mean, you can ask the same thing about why didn't EA put out Star Wars Battlefront a lot sooner? Why didn't Pokemon Company put out Pokemon Snap 2 a lot sooner? So
I guess so.
maybe the answer is that tactics games are really popular with a specific subset of the population, but overall don't perform as well commercially.
Yeah, that's possible. So I played through FFX recently, and the entire time I was basically like, this is making me want to play Final Fantasy Tactics, because like you get a lot of customization of your characters, right? You get to build your Final Fantasy character, except you get to build it instead of using the stupid sphere grid in Final Fantasy X. You have a lot more customization, and it's
Yeah,
tactics games, and I love tactics
I
games.
mean, Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lion is one of the few games that I've like played multiple times. Like I don't normally play games multiple times, but I just really enjoyed the story. Was relaxing after you actually know what's going to happen. It's got some good twists and turns, and the characters are fun. But the final time that I played, and I didn't ever beat it the final time, but I started with my goal was to beat the game with a team of only orators. For those of you who don't know, orators have some of the lowest stats in the game. but you can make them immune to magic and they can wield guns. And that was going to be my goal, was just gun down people with a bunch of orders.
Cool. I'm looking forward to playing FFTA 2. I don't know if I'm ever going to get around to Tactics itself, unless they make a remake of it, because it is pretty dated at this point, but it's definitely one I'm keeping my eyes out for.
They did actually update the graphics a few years ago for some of the parts.
It's not the graphics that's the issue, though, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Quality of life and game design, generally speaking, is just so much better now than it was 20
Yeah,
years ago.
that's
All
very
right,
true.
my next game on my list is a pair of games for the GameCube, Baten Kaitos and Lost Kingdoms, and both of these are card-based RPGs, and I don't think very many people have heard of them. Lost Kingdoms was actually made by FromSoft, which makes Dark Souls, if I'm not mistaken, and basically it's an action RPG where all of your actions are based on cards. So like cards could gain experience. So like if you keep on using a certain card, it would level up and it would transform into a stronger one, or you could duplicate it based on what you wanted to do with the experience. And it's a pretty short game and it's not very good, the Lost Kingdoms, but it's a lot of fun. Like they had a lot of promise with the premise, and it is fun for like the first like 5 hours or whatever. That and Kaitos is a pretty long RPG. It's turn based, but you are on a clock. So you have again, all of your actions are dictated by cards. So like each character has their deck that they can defend with or attack with, and it's pretty cool. Like I think the storyline and music are really good. It just has a lot of good like RPG things going for it. Like you always want to get to the next thing. Characters get stronger in interesting ways, and yeah, the like world it's built in is beautiful and whatnot. And I really like the battle system, the card system. It worked out really well. I don't think very many people have heard of Baten Kaitos, but it's really good. If you're a fan of RPGs and card games, I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's on the GameCube.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, nobody's heard of it. It's got an amazing soundtrack and it's a lot of fun. But I think it came out like toward the end of the GameCube's lifetime.
It came out in 2003 in Japan. How does it hold up as far as you said quality of life is concerned?
I think the quality of life is pretty good, although the graphics definitely look pretty dated at this point.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so the next on my list, I mentioned some simple games, some moderate games. I am mentioning like deep, obscure. Well, I guess maybe some people are like this is not obscure, but like I think it's pretty obscure. Obscure, complicated, heavy, just deep game called Tales of Maj'Eval, otherwise known as TOME, and this is TOME 4. It's I guess the fourth iteration. Uh, Classic roguelike. You've heard the term roguelike? This is a pure roguelike. It's very much like the original Rogue, except it's not ASCII characters. It's got actual art. Although the art is very, well, very not like modernized art, but it is actual art, which is nice. You don't have to like stare at like the less than sign, whatever. It's gonna eat your face or something. Um, uh, it's just like there's so much complexity in this game. This game's like probably one of the most complex, complicated games I've ever played, and it's really enjoyable to sink your teeth into if you want to just devour a game whole. You have a skill system of like you can get like so many options for skills. You have to like manage all your skills at the same time. It's if you've never heard of Rogue, it's a turn-based game where you're moving around with one character and you have skills, and there's like a bunch of debuff systems, and every class, not every class, but most classes play out extremely differently. There's an unlock system. There's a deep item system where you have to itemize yourself. If you like loot, this game's great for loot. I love loot. Sometimes I just want to play a loot, right? I just want to like loot a bunch of things and get a bunch of fun items. Very Diablo-esque. I just want to like get an item like yeah, I got a plus 22 strength sword. It's better than my plus 21 strength sword. Sometimes I just really want to do that. And this game just hits all those buttons. You have to sink some time into it. But if you like roguelikes, like pure roguelikes, not like card game roguelikes or action roguelikes, if you like deep, complicated gameplay, this could be your game.
Yeah, I've definitely never heard of this one before.
I wouldn't necessarily expect you to have. I was surprised just that I mentioned it the other day, not the other day, like a year ago, whatever. And it was like, oh, I love that game. I'm like, you've heard of this game?
All right, my next recommendation is two games. Hollow Knight and Ori of the Blind Forest. These are both Metroidvanias. Hollow Knight is much more combat oriented, and Ori and the Blind Forest is much more platforming oriented. But I think these are two games that are worth playing for everyone. They're not really my type of thing. Like, they're not strategy games, but they're just so well done. Ori is absolutely gorgeous, and I think most people know this at this point and have. I think it's really popular, so I think a lot of people have played. But if you haven't, you absolutely should. It's usually like $10 on sale. You can probably get for $5 if you buy it at the right time, and it's very short, but it's absolutely fantastic all the way through. And the best part is there's a sequel to Ori that is even better than it. And Hollow Knight, like, it's a much longer game. It's not super long, but like expect 15 to 20 hours of gameplay.
I haven't beaten it. I put like 5 to 8 hours into it a while back. Now that I've played Hades, I feel like I can maybe accomplish more. Since, as you said, it is more on the action side of things. I feel like I might be better at it now that I have experience with, different kind of combat system. There's a lot of content in Hollow Knight. Like, you can easily sink like 50, 60 hours of the Hollow Knight.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. But like, in order to just like play it through once without doing all of the extra side stuff, I think you can probably get done less than 20 hours most of the time. But like, it's such they made such a beautiful world in that one, Hollow Crest, and it's a lot of fun to just explore this ruined kingdom and see the remains of civilization. And one really nice thing about it is its controls are so good. Like, I don't know why, but a lot of action games do not have great controls. So it's really nice when you get a game like Hollow Knight. This applies to Ori also, but that has really tight character movements, and it's really easy to control them. So yeah, strongly recommended. I don't think Hollow Knight's perfect. If you're looking for if you get frustrated easily, maybe Hollow Knight isn't for you, because there are definitely some points that are frustrating, but I think it's a really well done game. And there's a sequel that's supposed to come out sometime this year. Probably not this year if we're already in November. I haven't heard of it, but I'm really looking forward to what comes next in this franchise.
I would recommend looking up Hollow Knight and looking at the artwork. If you like the art style, like, the whole game looks like that. If you think that art style is beautiful, the whole game is just that gorgeous. And if you don't like the art style, then the game's not going to be for you because the whole game looks like that. I think the art style looks really, really, really what's the word? Distinctive. I think the art style looks really good and distinctive. It is very pretty. As I said, it's not a perfect. The only perfect game is Hades, as far as I'm concerned. Back to shilling Hades.
Have you played Ori and the Blind Forest?
I have not. I've only played Hollow Knight for probably like 8 hours.
You should definitely get Ori and give it a try, because that game is very close to perfection. I think the sequel is I would say the sequel is perfect.
Oh wow.
The first one definitely has a few issues, but like, it is very, very good. It's very solid. It doesn't waste your time.
Can you play the sequel without playing the first one?
I would not recommend it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, I mean, like, the first one's only like, you can beat it in 5 hours.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
If you're slow, it might take a little more than that. But it's short, it's sweet, it's well done, it's definitely worth playing, and it's cheap.
Okay, so for my final game recommendations, I mentioned a bunch of like really heavy games. The heaviest game I've ever played. I'm gonna make a sharp pivot, complete pivot. I'm gonna recommend Lego games. I love a good Lego game. They're all very similar. They all go on sale all the time. I guess it's not that recent, but like since like 2011, all the games are now completely voice acted. Like the latest like Lego DC supervillains, whatever, even got like Mark Hamill to do the Joker. So they get some big names because it is Lego after all. Even the classics like Lego, the original Lego Star Wars without the voice acting, great fun game. I just think the Lego games are very casual fun. If you just want to like run around, pick up some Legos, crash into people with your like Lego weaponry, whatever, it's just a fun game. Go have fun with Legos.
Which one should I put on my Steam wish list if you had one to choose?
I mean, theoretically, there's this Lego Star Wars Complete Saga coming out soon, but I have no idea how good that's going to be. I really like the original Lego Star Wars, but might be dated in some ways. I guess I'd say like DC Supervillains is probably really good because it's got the complete voice acting. It's got like an open world element to it. It's got a very good system for like each character having unique move sets. If you want just like what was described as like Lego GTA, you have a Lego City Undercover. Has been described as like GTA, but Lego, and obviously not like rated R or whatever. not adult form, right? But that one's also kind of cute in that aspect. So I guess I'd probably go with one of those two. But if your like favorite franchise is like
All right.
Jurassic World, maybe like Lego Jurassic World, I don't know. I've never played that one.
I've never played these. Like I've seen them on the shelves at like whatever Target or whatever, but I've never seen any gameplay. So I'll check one out.
They're very casual fun.
All right, my last suggestion for those of you looking for a game for date night with someone that might not be a gamer. I mean, it's good with gamers too, but like Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, absolutely best date game ever. So basically, you have two people. I mean, it's 2 to 4 players. It's 1 to 4 players. You can play it by yourself, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose. But so it's 2 to 4 players, and you have this spaceship. There are a bunch of different stations. Like if you're piloting, you can't shoot weapons. If you're shooting weapons, you can't use the shield. If you're using the shield, you can't navigate. So there are like all these different things that you need to do, and you need to be able to do it with 2 people. At least that's my experience with it. It's an absolutely great game for date night. Strongly recommended. It's a lot of fun, and it's really cute. So that's my recommendation. Honorable mentions for date night games, because I've been playing a bunch of games with my girlfriend lately. I would say Cook Serve Delicious 3, amazing soundtrack. The gameplay is basically just following directions, but it's fun. It can be a little stressful at times. Overcooked 2 is like okay, but I'm not that thrilled about it. And then any like co-op game that you can play, like Terraria or Stardew Valley or Minecraft, I think are pretty good date night games. Anyway, let's get on to classic games. So this is our next category. I asked Stormblessed to write down some of the best games like from the past. These might not be good anymore, but just have a lot of good memories associated with them for us.
Yeah, there is a fair bit of overlap in some ways in these selections. The first on my list, and also on Sunny's list as well, is Civilization. For me, it's Civ 5. For Sunny, it's Civ 4. I've just sunk a lot of hours into Civ 5. At one point, I was watching a bunch of what's called like the No Quitters mod for multiplayer Civ 5, and they made a mod to make the game more balanced and open up more possibilities. Like they changed the like if you play like the base game, I think it's like tradition is like the only cultural option you can really pick because it's like the best one miles away.
Yeah.
But then this mod balances it to make the other options better. It really makes like all the other cultural trees feel a lot more impactful, and you can play with the cultures, and it works in a single player mode because I never actually played it multiplayer. So I like that it opened up options, sort of balanced resources, and it made everything feel more powerful too. So that was really good.
Yeah, Civilization's great. Civ 5 especially feels like pretty unbalanced. Like once in Civ 5, I had a city state request a certain resource, and it was in their territory. So like I don't know, I became friends with them, and then they became happy because they acquired the resource because I was friends with them. It was all very, very weird. So like I think Civ 5 had a few problems. The Civilization I played the most was Civ 4, which had its own problems. I'm not going to say that like Civ 5 was a downgrade. For one thing, like the movement on Civ 5 was a lot better, I think. But in any case, like building, there are the town builders, right? Like SimCity or whatever. That's a lot of fun. Well, Civilization is a civilization builder, and you can try to take over the world, and it's just so good. If you haven't played Civilization, you do need to carve out a large chunk of time to play it, because that's just the nature of the game.
I just want to play one more turn. Just one more turn.
Yeah,
I'll
just
go to
one
bed,
more
Sunny.
turn.
Just one more turn. Then I'll go to bed.
Yeah. So like, I mean, you're guiding your civilization through millennia, so of course it's going to take a while, but it's so good.
What was your favorite strategy in Civilization? Obviously, I like just hard rushing as much science and technology as possible.
I liked. I don't know if you could do this in Civ 5, but in Civ 4, you could like take over your opponent's cities by having a ton of culture.
You can do that in Civ 5, but it's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I think.
So
I've never actually played Civ 4, so I don't know how reasonable the comparison is actually, but
yeah. So you would get a ton of culture, and that would push your boundaries into your opponent's territory. And oh yeah, the other thing is that like cities were a lot closer together in Civ 4, I think. They were more plentiful and they're a lot closer together. So then like if you got enough culture, your opponent's city would just become yours. So that was my thing. um did you ever play Beyond Earth?
Uh, no.
Oh, okay. So it's like Civilization for colonizing a planet. I don't remember. Maybe it's supposed to be the moon. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's a lot like Civilization, although there are a lot of things that are different. Civilization's an incredibly complicated game, right? But like I felt like I knew it, right? Before playing Beyond Earth. Beyond Earth just like takes all that and flips it upon its head. Like all of the technologies that you'd be used to are totally different because it's futuristic and talking about colonizing this planet. It's worth I don't know, it's like an expensive game, but I had bought it for some reason.
I never picked it up because it was so expensive, and I was like, I heard middling reviews about it. It just didn't look as good as Civ 5 at the time, so I was like, I'm just gonna stick with Civ 5, especially because it was like a $20 game when it came out. I probably would have gotten it, but like it was like $60, and I'm like, that's so expensive.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get that. Maybe check it out on YouTube or something like that because it's pretty wild. Like just the fact that it's so different. Once you get into it, it's probably close enough like Civilization where you'll feel bad about having spent $60 on it. But it's like it's pretty cool, and it also is just like, oh man, it's impossible to wrap your mind around it for the first time when you're trying to get used to all the new things. But it was fun for like a playthrough or two. Having spent the money to buy it already, I'm happy that I got a chance to play it. All right. So my first game on here was Civilization was on both of our lists. My first game is Star Fox 64 and Diddy Kong Racing on the N64. I just love those games. I could play them again and again. Neither of them require too much time investment. Like an entire run of Star Fox 64 is like half an hour, and it just had the best lines. I would just like say the lines out loud, like "It's about time you showed up, Star Fox," or uh, I didn't want to say the overused ones, like oh, there's the "I can't let you do that, Star Fox" by Star Wolf, and then bum 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 bum. The Star Wolf theme is so epic. Anyway, that game's a lot of fun. It's quick and I just played it so much and had a lot of fun. And same thing with Diddy Kong Racing. People talk about Mario Kart 64, but Diddy Kong Racing was like by far the superior racing game because like you got to use a plane, hovercraft, or cart. So like you had all the cart things going on, but you also got to use hovercraft, which was really interesting, I think. And flying around was, I guess it's like a neat little aspect of the game. So I guess on the harder levels, it was a lot of fun to use the plane. But on some of the easier ones, using a hovercraft and just gliding across water is super cool.
Yeah, I never played any of those games. I did play my own fair share of racing games, like Kirby Racing, and obviously Mario Kart was a big thing for me. But yeah, I mean, never played any of those. So the next on my list is also on Sunny's list as well. It's Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, but definitely not 3 because it's Garbo. It's so bad. But Roller Coaster Tycoon is phenomenal.
Yeah, actually, I think the one that I played the most was the first one, Roller Coaster Tycoon. But yeah, those first two that were like isometric are just so good building the roller coasters. It holds up to this day too. I think like the
Yeah,
quality of life is good enough that you can get into a game and really enjoy it for a few hours.
and for those of you who understand programming, the game is like unbelievable because it's coded in, I think, like basic. Like it's coded in like like for those of you who don't know, like I think basic is like one step above ones and zeros. Like it's coded as close to like the base level of coding as you get. I mean, I said Hades is a masterpiece. World War Tycoon 2 is also a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just great. There's not really much more to say. It's super fun. It's fun to build the coasters. It's fun to watch your park do well. It's just a really fun game.
yeah. The one thing I wasn't a huge fan of is that like it doesn't really incentivize you to build a super crazy coaster most of the time.
I think the one thing I didn't like about the game was I didn't like cleaning up people's puke or
Yeah.
whatever. Like the
Yes.
park got so dirty. I mean, I guess it's really accurate to like regular theme parks that were like the park is so dirty so quickly. You spend like so much time cleaning up people's vomit.
Yeah, but like so The optimal strategy in Rollercoaster Tycoon, if you're just trying to complete the mission or whatever, was usually just make something that's compact and use it as a template and just use it on all your maps. But it was a lot of fun to just go absolutely wild and make a coaster that goes like 70 miles an hour and has all these crazy interactions with your other coasters. That was a lot of fun.
I'm literally just remembering all the good times I had playing Old Tycoon now. I don't actually think I didn't do very many missions. I just did a lot of like free play stuff. I love building the park out. I love like putting decorations down. Very like Sims in that regard, where you get to like build the house. In this case, it's a theme park with like decorations that don't really matter, but you want to decorate the park anyways. And the game is so fun.
Yeah. My next classic game is Fire Emblem or Advance Wars. They're both by the same developer, Intelligent Systems. And oh my god, tactics games, taking characters and making them from like a level 1 Cavalier and then eventually making them into a super cool level 20 Paladin is just so much fun. And it's so unforgiving, so you feel really good when you can finally beat a mission. My favorite is actually Heroes, the mobile game. I think the mobile game's so good. I guess it just does a lot of fan service for people who have played through the main series games because you get to use all the characters from all the different games in it. But yeah, tactics-based games with a great story. I think the storytelling for some of the earlier Fire Emblems is really good. That has been an issue of late, though. But like, yeah, Sacred Stones, such good memories. Advance Wars, same developer. It's technically a spin-off of Fire Emblem, which is kind of surprising. But that one's also good tactics-based fun as well. So I remember a while back you were debating getting Three Houses or not.
Yes.
How come you never got it? You got too busy with
I
other stuff?
I honestly don't know. I think I got too busy, I think. And then like around that time there was also a big deal on like Switch games and like lots of things were going on sale. And it was like I could get this game, but then there's other games on sale, and I think I fell for the trap of going for games on sale. Where it's like, maybe I'd put like hundreds of hours into a $60 game, but if I get like three $20 games, that's like three games, and they're on sale too. They're like $40. Oh my god, it's like saving $60 right there.
Oh my
Um,
god.
yeah.
I
So
think that Three Houses is absolutely phenomenal for the first half. It really falls apart in the second half, but I think the first half of Three Houses is really good. It's all voice acted. The music's fantastic. The gameplay is like it's a tactics game, but there's a lot of like how you want to develop your characters. Basically, everyone is a blank slate in Three Houses, which is really cool. Usually, when you get characters in Fire Emblem games, they already have their class and what they're good at. But in Three Houses, you really get to mold every single one of your characters, and they have a lot of personality. I think it's a really good game. It definitely has its flaws. But I mean, I've played for 130 hours or something, and I still have only completed two and a half of the four different paths in the game. Of course, I'm also playing it on the hardest difficulty, which is definitely self torture because it's so hard. But yeah, I love Fire Emblem. I listen to covers of Fire Emblem every day. It's just my life.
but yeah, I just so this is complete non sequitur, but I just remembered you back. You asked me like, what are you playing right now? I just remembered what I'm actually playing right now. I'm playing a lot of Sudoku actually.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying that.
I'm really loving Sudoku, variant Sudoku. It's just really relaxing and like, just to crunch the numbers and find the patterns. Like humans love pattern matching, and it's just great to match the patterns. But anyways, so yeah, so aside from Sudoku, so back to classics. Kirby games. I love Kirby games. It's been a really long time since I played Kirby games. My Kirby game of choice was Magic Mirror. I loved that game.
What was it for?
I think it was for the Game Boy, although that could be, one of those things where it's like, like it came out earlier and then oh no, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, excuse me. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror was for the Game Boy Advance. And I like the level system of it. I like you got to choose your levels differently. Because like a lot of Kirby games feel very linear in a respect, but this is more open world as far as Kirby games are concerned. I don't know how accurate it is because it's been like 15 years since I played the game. But um, but it's really cool. It has a fun system where like you can call your other Kirby friends and they can come on screen for a very short period of time. Kirby is very fun because you get like the power system, because that's fun. But when it's like open world like this, it was very cool to like jump around. You had to like exploring was really cool because this is back before everyone's like all walkthroughs and stuff. You had to find all the fun secrets and open the levels and like how do I get through this level? You had to go back to get a different power up, and so a lot of fun with Kirby and the Magic Mirror. That game was very fun for me.
The next game on my list is a very flawed game. It's Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. It was for the GameCube, and the controls are so bad. Like any game where that's all about going really fast, like having this control system randomly not work out, like not work the way that you expect it to, is a big problem. But when it works, that game is so much fun. Just going really fast through 3D levels. And one of the big problems though is that like you get to play as Sonic and Shadow, but you also get to play as Dr. Robotnik, Tails, Knuckles, and is it Rogue or Rouge? I don't remember. Rouge? Whatever.
I've never played Sonic, so
yeah, in any case, like the Sonic and Shadow levels are amazing because you're just tearing through these levels at high speeds and hoping that the controls work out for you. But then the rest of the levels are just like so problematic. And the best part about it is the Chow Garden, where you got to raise these little things and like and develop them into like winning at karate matches against other chows. They're just like these little mini pets, or race them against each other. For some reason, that was just so addictive, and I spent so many hours on that. So definitely a very flawed game. Does not hold up. Like if you tried playing it now, you get incredibly frustrated at the controls. But when it was good, it was really good.
Yeah, so I've never played Sonic games. Common theme is just I've never played this. I've never played this. So my next classic game is Smash Brothers. For me, my Smash Brothers of choice was Smash Brothers Brawl. That was sort of my time period of Smash. Although I have played Melee and I have played the newer one, recently for a very short period of time. But Brawl was the one I sunk a lot of teeth into. It's a very fun party game. I've played a bunch of Smash. It's really fun, at least for me, when you don't have to be super competitive about it, because maybe because I'm just not as like super good. But like when I had like a tournament at undergrad, and then like I lost round one, and it wasn't also like super entertaining because I like the multiplayer modes better. I like having like more people on the screen, just 1v1, and playing with items is fun because the randomness is enjoyable. It's a fun little party game. Yeah, so I played my fair amount of Smash Brothers.
Yeah, the thing about Smash for me is I feel like I've played enough for my life. When I play Smash now, I just don't find it fun anymore. I definitely had a lot of fun when I was a kid. Just nowadays, I guess I've played enough of it. Same goes with like League of Legends for me, which I've played a lot. Brawl was great because it had like the collaboration for the soundtrack and had so many great new arrangements, right?
Brawl had some good soundtrack, and I also like the Smash Ball. I like the final Smash moves; those were always exciting.
Competitive players would hate you.
Whatever, who cares? I want to have fun with the game. I'll be competitive in my card games for my Smash will be.
Yeah, I think Smash elitists are pretty ridiculous. Like I like the items; they're fun. Anyway, okay, my last game on my list is Age of Empires 2. I spent so many hours as a kid playing it, and you know what? In Age of Empires 2, that's like how I got a lot of my knowledge of history of Europe and Asia. just because
Oh no.
just because I like would spend so much time reading the glossary and whatnot.
Oh, okay. I thought you were about to say that I got all of my knowledge from just like playing the game told me what types of infantry that they use, and I was like, oh no, okay. Gloss is a little bit better. It's a little bit better than just
Yeah,
like
I would read all the entries that they have,
okay.
and same thing goes with Civilization.
That's a little better, a little better.
I played the game a lot and just got really interested in what these different things meant.
Okay, okay.
That's where I learned what the saying "hoisted upon their own petard" means.
So my next game is StarCraft. StarCraft was big for me back in high school. I love StarCraft. StarCraft Brood War was great. For whatever reason, the library let us play StarCraft in there at lunch and after school. For whatever reason, the computers, which were very restricted because their school computers allowed you to play Brood War if you had it on a USB. So we just did LAN Brood War UMS a lot of times.
Wow.
And also just regular Brood War as well. Just like multi-person Brood War games. The controls in Brood War don't hold up at all because you only have just 12 units at a time. But I mean, it's a lot of. I mean, anytime you're doing things that you're having a good time with other people in the multiplayer setting can just be good fun. I did play StarCraft 2 a fair bit as well, especially because some of the people that had this also had StarCraft 2. That was mostly at home. I like Day 9 a lot. Day 9, I used to watch him all the time. I was even on a Fun Day Monday once.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever watched Fun Day Mondays, but those were always fun because force them to do the worst builds and just nonsense combinations of stuff. And my StarCraft 2 name was Stormblessed as well. And so being on Fun Day Monday was really cool for me back in high school as well. So that was a good time, StarCraft.
StarCraft actually got me into competitive gaming. When I was in high school, I would set an alarm for like 2 a.m. and watch the Korean streams. And this was before like any of it was in English. Like everything was in Korean. Navigating menus was really tricky. I did not know how to speak Korean. But like that was I don't know. There's just like something romantic about it, like something amazing about these professional gamers. And to be honest, like I don't think any esport has really captured what the Korean StarCraft League does for me. Like League of Legends is cool, sure, but it's not like Flash versus Jaedong, two people controlling these huge
Yeah.
armies and battling against each other. I remember I watched Jaedong win his first OSL live. Jaedong was one of the most successful Brood War players of all time. That must have been in late 2007 or early 2008. Anyway, so like I watched StarCraft from Korea for like a couple of years, and I actually taught a college course. Like my school had this experimental college where people could teach their own courses, so I taught like a history of competitive StarCraft.
Yeah. So while the quality of life in some regard doesn't hold up quite as well, it was a beauty to both to execute well and also just to watch. Like because in StarCraft 2 you have like the Protoss ball and it's like
Yeah,
I'm just gonna run over people with my Colossus. But in StarCraft 1 you can't do that. You got 12 minutes at a time. You have to use these hotkeys and you have to micro super hard, and it is really beautiful to watch.
yeah. And you mentioned Day 9. I started watching the Day 9 dailies in the single digits. Like I don't think I was
Oh
there for the
wow,
first one, but I would watch them live, like starting
the
on
single
number 6 or
digits.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't start watching until the StarCraft 2 dailies.
And I actually got the
Um,
chance to meet Day 9 at TwitchCon and at GP San Jose, and he is just an amazing human being. Like that is not an act. Like he is like that all the time. He is just a total goofy bundle of happiness, like all the time. He's amazing. And he's been really inspiring for me. I wouldn't say directly because I've never wanted to become a StarCraft content creator, but like as far as putting a lot of effort into gaming and treating it like it's a real thing, which it is. Anyway, he's an absolute hero, and
yeah, if you want to, if you don't even like StarCraft Day 9 Daily 100, I think it's like his just basically him telling his story of his life in StarCraft, and it's really moving. It's really a moving daily.
yeah, I watched
Uh,
that one live. I remember that. That's so good.
okay, so honorable mention, kind of in both regards for everyone, the classic zeitgeist, the most popular franchise in the world, Pokemon. Everyone's played Pokemon. Sonny, what was your generation of Pokemon though? That's the important question. What
I
was your
played
gen?
Gen 3 the most, Game Boy Advance.
Okay. My generation, I think Diamond and Pearl was the one that I played the most of.
Uh-huh. That
Uh,
makes sense because
although
I'm like a few years older than you.
I think the best Pokemon in many respects is Heart Gold or Soul Silver. Those games are just like their Battle Frontier is just really good. The fact that it's 8 gyms is really fun. The fact that your Pokemon follows you as you walk around is really fun, and it's also the original like 2D graphics, which I do kind of miss. So I think Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. If you're looking for a Pokemon game to play, it has the fun battle system where like after Gen 3 they like reformed the battle system to improve it greatly, allowing for like physical
Yeah.
type fire Pokemon to be good and stuff. So I think Heart Gold Soul Silver is the best form of Pokemon. If you haven't played Pokemon, try that one. And if you have, try that one as well because it's just the best form of Pokemon.
So I've enjoyed most of the Pokemon generations. I didn't play a whole ton of Diamond Pearl or Black White 2. But I thought that one of the ones that I played recently was X and Y. I really liked that. I had a ton of fun with that one. And I had fun with Sun and Moon. Sorry, is that yeah, that's
Yeah,
not the most that's not Sword and Shield, which I haven't fully played, but I had a lot of fun with Sun and Moon. That was a good time. One thing I know I'm blinded by nostalgia, but one thing I absolutely love about Ruby and Sapphire is their like sense of adventure. I feel like for the first two generations, you were very close to a city at all times, or like everything was pretty urban. But for Ruby and Sapphire, I felt like you really got to like explore the world, and that was a really cool feeling for me. Really enjoyed it.
I like that Ruby and Sapphire had your dad in it. Yeah, unknown character, the dad. I mean, he's kind of like a deadbeat dad. He left your home to like become like a professional pet fighter. You know, but the fact that your dad's there is cool. But
yeah, I guess that's fantasy fulfillment for a certain set of people.
Oh my god.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyway, we've been talking long enough. Our editor's going to have to sift through all this. Thank you, SRFS.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed our fun little delve through of just talking about video games we love, and just like I hope you enjoy it because you love some of these video games too, and maybe you'll learn or try out a game that we've talked about.
Yeah, and of course we want to hear what games that you really enjoy. So like if you want to post it in FECast in the Discord and just talk about, old games that you've loved or games that you think that people should try, go ahead and do so, and I'd be happy to check it out. Always interested in, what games really, really move people.
Next week we will return back with your regularly scheduled Eternal content, so don't you worry about that. For those of you that have stuck around this long, I don't know why, and thought maybe we're transitioning just like random video game podcast. But no, we will be back next week with Eternal, discussing worlds and other things. Hopefully we'll have a set 10 to talk about even like one spoiler, maybe if we're lucky. Because that would be very cool. But yeah, so hope you had a good time. As always, stay in the friend zone.
Yeah, and root on Stormblessed this weekend as he battles in the top 16. All right, see y'all later. The Friends of Eternal Discord is the best place on the internet to get better at Eternal. We have players of all skill and experience levels all happy to help each other out on basically any aspect of their Eternal gameplay. And making all this possible is our generous patrons over at patreon.com. If you'd like to support FECast or Friends of Eternal, consider donating at patreon.com/Friends of Eternal. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, we'll see you in the Friend Zone.